someone finding the best aspects of themselves in the presence of another person.
Yeah, and when everything else disappears.
Yeah,
around, it's like nothing matters anymore.
It's a love story that transcends the constrictions of time and the love that both Beverly and Peter experience together is something that kind of draws the attention of forces, the celestial forces of the universe that then conspire to keep Peter alive for 100 years. Their love is so strong that it kind of agitates the shades of light and dark that are manipulating the existence of all human beings on the planet. So it's pretty big stuff, and it becomes a matter of life and death that doesn't just take place in the moment, but happens later in life. Peter has a purpose. As a result of what Beverly awakened in him and the strength of love experience between the two of them, Peter finds later that he has a purpose that is pretty extraordinary. The film is really sweet and has, I hope it comes across as that, and that was one of the things I loved about it, was just how it's kind of sentimental at times, but in a really lovely way.
Beverly, I think, because she's in a situation where she's accepted a lot of things in life that happen to most people will never happen to her. And so she sort of has this clarity about life and sees things very simply. The waters aren't muddied for her because there's no sort of long-term thinking.
Attachment.
Yeah, an attachment. And so therefore can see very quickly that Peter is not a bad person. Someone can do something bad, but it doesn't make them a bad person, and she can see that very quickly.
You've probably heard it said before that sometimes for some people they feel when they're closest to death is when they're most alive, and that's, I think, why extreme sports and wing gliding and all that kind of stuff really, and the adrenaline rush that people get from it, and that's very much what's happening with Beverly. She's so close to death that the clarity that Jessica spoke about is something that just really astonishes Peter. I don't want to say like it's a drug, because it's not even about that. It's just there's a purity and there's a kindness and there's a acceptance of the way things are. Because Peter's always fought against the way things are. He's always fought against societal systems, and he's fought against the law, and he's fought against himself and not knowing his own origins and his own biological parents. And he meets someone who should be fighting seemingly so hard to stay alive, and it's not. And she's not, and at the same time she hasn't given up. She's just crystalline in her clarity. Yeah, that's how we meet. Yeah. So I break into her dad's house, right? Because she's loaded and she's a big gaff there in Central Park, and I break in because I think there's nobody home, and I hear this music coming from the room, the grand room, and she is in her maniacal dance toward death, playing rather vibrantly, aggressively on the ivories, and that's when they meet for the first time. And he has a gun in his hand, and she was saying she'll be afraid, but she asks him if he wants a cup of tea, and there the story begins.